Hi. In today's session, we're going to look at a couple of topics in Business Application Studio. They are number one, flexible binding of SAP HANA instance in Business Application Studio for HDI containers. The second one is, where can I find HDI build process? Does it exist in BAS or no? Let's take a look at the first one in the system. So flexible binding of SAP HANA instance. Got my Business Application Studio here. I previously built some database artifacts in it. The project is Cloud Dev. I already deployed these objects in the Cloud Foundry space as well. Let's take a look at what are the services currently we have in this particular space. Command CF services, I can see HC is being my HANA Cloud, the database instance, and then I have the HDI container service called HANA Cloud underscore Srikanth. This is my initial deployed service. I also have HDI underscore DB. This is a CF based deployment resulted service. The difference between these two services are the first one is being the deployed one from Business Application Studio, and the second one is deployed using CF deploy service on Cloud Foundry. Now, if we would like to know which service is being bound to the current DB module, you can see in the projects. So currently it is bound to my HANA Cloud underscore scan. This is a service that is being deployed as part of the deploy, but if I open any artifact and run the data preview or check something in it, say I'm opening a business partner, and I would like to see a data preview on the CV. The data I'm going to get is from the service HANA Cloud underscore Srikanth. And then if I would like to switch this service to a different one, that is another one deployed from CF deploy command. So I can do that by simply changing the connection here. So I can unbind by clicking on this plug button, and then I can choose to do another binding. Now it's empty. So when I choose to do the binding, it's going to prompt me which container you want it to. So I'm going to select bind to an HDI container. It's going to ask me which service you want it to bind. I'm going to pick this time HDI DB. So now you can see that HDI underscore DB is bound to the database. So which is different than the previous one. So if I go and do the data preview on these objects, I'm going to get the data from a different container, not the one that I previously had it in here. So this gives us a lot of flexibility in switching the containers from one to another. So I can choose a different container in my space, or I can choose a different container that's in a different space as well. I can even choose a container that is in production space as well, so that I can get the data that's in the production container and run the data preview here as well. But it is a little risky though. The reason for it is if you have the option to connect to the or bind to the production instance, and if in any case you try to make some changes to the design time artifact and start building, it's going to override the production DB artifacts using your current changes. So this gives a lot of flexibility to point to any database instance by just switching from one to another in the database connections. But at the same time, we have to be careful in switching this to production by restricting that process in some way. But still, in some cases, if you wanted to do the data previews of production, you can still do that by having another custom process to give enough privileges to only see the data, but not able to make any changes to the container. So that's a different topic that we have discussed this in another session. I can link that session in the comments area of this session. So you can refer to that to understand how it's going to be done. It's explained in two different ways. That's something that is important for you if you wanted to know that. So that's the the first topic that I wanted to know. To summarize the first topic, it is making us to choose the service between one to another by choosing binding and unbinding options in BAS, which was not possible in the previous development tools like HANA Studio or Web IDE. Well, in the same topic, I also wanted to discuss on the second point here. Where do I see my HDI build process? It used to be done in Web IDE or XSA based tooling. So yeah, we don't have that. So you try to do a build process on this design, you don't get to see any option to do the build process. The only option you have is to do the deploy from the projects is going to list all the objects that are being prepared here on the top in the workspace, and you can see them and then deploy. It's like an activation. So I can make a general relation between your web ID build is identical to the deploy option in BAS here. So it is going to generate the similar object with your own container, um, and then separates your deployment or separate your container from the other developers. So I can consider this is a very similar comparison from build process of your web IDE to BAS. And then the process that you do using CF deploy, which is a no change from web ID or in BAS. It's going to be the same. The only difference that you notice, you got an option to do the CF deploy directly from the terminal that is available on BAS. But in the past, you may have this option um, in the command line tools, CF command line tools, or access command line tools if you're on an on-premise system. So that's actually there's no difference in doing the CF deployment or the deployment in a Cloud Foundry space. But as a this is a little confusing. That's why I was trying to put this note here. So we can conclude that saying the build process in Web IDE is equal or identical to the deploy process in BAS, with the flexibility to have a binding and unbinding to any instance in the same space or a different space, or even could be a space at or a container in the production space as well. That's definitely an improvement of compared to the Web ID development tool. So that's why I've gone through this topic in this session. I hope it is helpful, and thank you for listening. Take care. Bye bye.